Hey guys, thank you for joining today's webinar. We're just going to wait a few minutes to see if anyone else joins. I'm really excited to share this webinar and this information with you because, hey guys, thank you. It's extremely been helpful to me in my spiritual journey and awakening. I definitely have grown a lot in the past few years with this information because this is all the information that was shared to me from a mystery school. So what that means is that this information is about the unseen aspects of our consciousness. And these unseen aspects are the ways that we can learn about our brain and ourselves. Because really the whole point of a mystery school is to learn about the mystery of yourself, of why you're here, what you're here to do, and what the purpose of this reality is. So this is I'll give a little bit more information when we begin, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining. I hope you get a lot of great information from this to help you conquer your own fears and do what you're here to do. Um, I'm I spent a lot of time on this. I'm very excited to share this with you. This has probably been 2, 3 years in the making, only because I've had to like integrate all this info. So let's just wait a few minutes and I will be back shortly. All right, guys, we're going to begin in a little bit. Just want to give some people the time to join. I didn't do great on marketing this, so I just kind of was like, oh, I want to try this out for today. Um, and I do have a membership that I offer these biweekly sessions, and I also put them on YouTube Live that uh, you can join to kind of raise your frequency or keep your frequency high um, during these times of chaos and distractions. And I call it a frequency war because I feel like this is our final test as beings in this material universe to experience uh, the power of choice. You know, are you going to get distracted by lower vibrations, lower frequencies, and stay here? Or do you choose to ignore them completely and focus on what you're here to do, what you're here to create, and your purpose? So this is the point of today's workshop. And I see you there, Penny. Thank you for joining. Good to see you. So this is all about the stuff I've learned from mystery school. This is about the unseen aspects of our brain, the neurobiology of fear, and why when you manifest an idea, it's hard to actually create it. This is a science backed by, quantum physics, you could say, and also the study of the unseen, of energy. So this is going to teach you about why we have fear in the brain, why it's inherited in us, and I'm going to use the film Dune, or the esoteric symbolism in Dune, to explain this entire process of transmutation or alchemy to then manifest a divine mind. Because right now we all inherit a human mind that's limited, and we call it the ego or the shadow or unconscious behavior or your lower self. These are all egoic ways to describe it. And in this video, we'll explain the entire process of transmutation and why people don't grow and don't change and don't transform because of this neurobiology that we inherit and the unawareness of that. Because we can't really evolve or ascend until you know this info. That's the importance of this information, because there's a part of our brain, the reptilian brain, or the you could also call the most ancient part of our brain, where our higher self or our spirit sits and observes everything that we presented in terms of thoughts and beliefs and impressions of images in our imagination. And until those become pure and clean, that part of us in our lower cerebellum does not allow you to progress. It keeps you into a place, well, it tests you until you purify yourself. So we can start. I'm going to present this in a presentation, but also some videos, and we can begin. So just make sure you're in a very comfortable place. You're ready to receive a lot of information. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I can answer them at the end, but I want to kind of dive in deep and see how this can benefit you. So here we go. Let me get this full screen for you. Okay. So I hope you guys can all see this presentation here. So today we're talking about breaking free from fear. And I know that sounds a very wild thing to actually realize, but I think after you understand the biology and the nature of our true selves, it'll be much easier to understand. So here, I want to show a quick film about the esoteric symbolism of Dune, because once you understand the symbolism in Dune, to visually understand the neurobiological transformation from fear, which is a part of the lower mind, to love, which is a higher divine mind, by the power of belief and the control of your lower self, which in spirituality, that's like your animal nature or your ego, or the body. So by learning this dual nature of mind, and which is the left and right hemispheres, and how to rule yourself, basically control your animal nature and your frequency, which is the accumulation of your thoughts and beliefs, you can transform your reality by aligning to the power of your intuition and the heart. So I'm going to show this quick film, which I'm very excited to show you because I just love the film Dune. It's very powerful. So let's see. So make sure you have your volume up, and I'm about to play it.
Did you see? Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them?
Yes.
Did you see? The test is simple. Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them?
What's in the box?
Pain. You inherit too much power. You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others. Something none of your ancestors learned.
My father rules an entire planet.
He's losing it.
He's getting a richer one.
He'll lose that one too. An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do? Violence. Hold at your neck to calm your back. Poison needle. Instant death. It's the mic. It's the little tap. Ich mag viel noch mit. Was soll ich If you had been unable to control your impulses like an animal, he could not let you live.
I must not hear. Fear is the mind killer. Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
So, isn't that a great trailer? Isn't it so epic? So basically, uh, if you haven't seen that Dune movie, you don't really need to know the whole premise to get this concept, because in that short trailer, you understood that his father and his mother represents the two hemispheres of the brain. And that test he had by putting his hand in the box is basically the box symbolizes your mind. And in the mind is always pain. And for you to actually grow and transform, you have to embrace pain, because that pain is actually the neurons in your brain disconnecting from, let's say, a old neighborhood you've been living in. This old neighborhood of neurons where you're sick, you don't make money, you're not happy, your relationships are in lack. And you have to move into a new neighborhood, a new neural net where you're always healthy, you're wealthy, you have unconditional love, and every relationship you have is in union with yourself. And until you do that, or that transformation of the old neural net to the new neural net creates pain, emotional pain. And until you embrace that, like the character did with this hand in the box, and not panic, but feel it completely, and to let it integrate in you, you can never move into a new neighborhood. And this is really important to understand, because you don't need anything outside of you to evolve. You don't need practices. You don't need, yoga or, anything outside of you. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All you need to know is knowledge, because this knowledge will empower you to practice it. But until you practice it, you won't evolve, because your spirit is observing everything that you entertain it with thoughts and beliefs and pictures. And until they become pure, it'll keep your energy from the heart. And this is the science of understanding spirituality, of evolution and ascension. So now I'm going to continue the presentation. So you have to ask yourself, why aren't you happy? Have you taken the full responsibility to ask yourself this question and answer it? Because honestly, until you do so, you will not evolve. You will not learn what it means to take full responsibility of your life. And until you do that, that power you'll continue to give away to limiting and negative thoughts. So really ask yourself this question and find the answers, because then that's when you can take full responsibility of your life and make the change that you need to. So this is also something that is important to know, because this part of our brain, this caudate nucleus, which in mystery schools, they call it Claudette, and it's the brain's fear center. This is where you experience fear in your own mind, and is a biological and neurological part of our brain. And every human is born with this. So this center of our brain, this caudate nucleus, which is our fear center, it blocks your joy. And until you become aware of this center and how our brain works, you can't unlock this freedom and this joy, this natural state of being, because fear isn't just emotional, it's biological. It lives in a part of our brain called the caudate nucleus, and it acts like a gatekeeper, filtering all our experiences. So when fear is dominant in your life and in your mind, joy has a hard time getting through. So that's why it's important to ask you, why aren't you happy? Why don't you have joy in your life? It's because of caudate nucleus. And the good news is that we aren't this biology. This is inherited in us as a human experience to be tested. That's the purpose of this reality. If we are unlimited potential and energy, then we come here to experience limitation, so we remember how powerful we are. So with awareness, this can shift. You can have less fear in your life and a lot more joy. And so this part of our brain, the neocortex, is above the caudate nucleus, which is our conscious mind. It's like the hard drive of the brain, which stores all our knowledge, all our memory, and all the data. And this is only underdeveloped because it is where we keep ourselves limited. We don't learn anything new. We don't attain spiritual knowledge. And so because of that, you calculate and judge everything. You live more in the mind and not the heart. And this is where most of humanity live, in body, mind, consciousness, which is about your personality, which always thinks in duality, good versus evil, me versus them, male versus female, and vice versa. And this creates that need for survival rather than thriving. So whatever thoughts that you have in your neocortex, this is where all your neurons are. That creates the emotions in your body. And then your emotional body controls your physical body, your health. So what you think and believe has control over your emotions, which then control your life. So this part of our brain, the neocortex, is broken up into left and right hemispheres. And so the left is your masculine, the analytical, the intellect, and the right is the feminine and intuition, the emotions. And so when the energy comes into consciousness, because consciousness on the brain is called mind, there is no separation, that energy moves first into the emotional aspect and then to the left. And it stays there because you constantly judge your thoughts instead of taking the first initial intuitive download and then acting on it. So this is where thought is then presented and argued, like I said, because it's like a house that's split. And then when it comes up from your brainstem, you feel it as electrical impulse and nerve fibers that then fire the neurons that represent the matter of your thought, which is in our brain. It's a neural net. And so when you think of thoughts, think of it as pictures, because your brain doesn't actually think, it thinks in pictures, which then we think are thoughts. So when these thought forms, it's a solid formation of our consciousness. So both sides of the brain discusses. It's like having a mom and dad argue about an idea. What are we going to do today? You know, the woman knows what they want to do, but then the guy's like, I don't know about this. And so let's argue. So that's pretty much what our brain does to most of humanity. And all these thoughts are first presented purely, but then once you start going back and forth, which is called thinking, it becomes polarized. It's not as pure anymore. And I like to think of it as like everyone has a neural net that when we pour water into it, it's already going through a filter of like a dirty cloth, because the brain is constantly judging and doubting every thought that we have. So it creates dirty water. It creates an unhealthy body and emotional state. So when these pure thoughts that you have, you start to think, they become contaminated. And so due to the ignorance of this information and this knowledge about how our brain actually works, we accept this idea of thinking these dramatic concepts and altered thoughts as normal, which is what we experience now as mental illness, is the belief in fear over love. So this normal thinking that we all think, it's the mystical power that we never see, but we have every day. Thinking is our superpower, but everyone uses it against themselves or doubts themselves. So if you could hold back your own personal judgments, this commentary in your head about your pure thoughts and ideas, you can start cleaning up your neural net. And so these hemispheres are also separated by a bridge, which is called bridge consciousness. And bridge consciousness is known as corpus callosum, in the bridge between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So this is an image of the brain cut in half. So you can see this corpus callosum here. So it holds all the equipment together. It's like holding your brain together. And underneath that is the caudate nucleus. So the greatest organ that you have is your brain. And we only use 1/10 of it because we focus on the same limiting thoughts and beliefs and neurons every day. And the second part is the reptilian brain, which is here, that's connected to the body, called the lower cerebellum. And the third is the heart. There's actually a brain in your heart. And so our brain is a vehicle for streams of consciousness, streams of frequencies and energy that come into our brain as a power source. So every frequency is available to our brain at any time, but due to our neural net and our frequency, we only experience this current thoughts that you have right now. And you have to actually ask yourself, are your thoughts limited, or are they thriving? Are they expansive? And so this midbrain, which is right here, it modulates at infrared frequency, which is able to send and receive information to process. And so infrared frequency is right here, which is below the heart. And this is where humanity is most in social consciousness or subconsciousness. So subconsciousness is where all our fears are. And so a lot of people talk about reprogramming your subconsciousness, but it's really, you have to become aware of your subconsciousness. You have to become aware of all the limitations, the fears, the negative beliefs that you have, because the divine consciousness or super consciousness is above the heart, which is pure love, love of self, because it's after bridge consciousness, which is felt love. It's like the feeling of mothers seeing their children born for the first time, or fathers seeing their children born, or something that you create and knowing that you create it. That's the felt love that you have to start embodying in order to reach and manifest a divine mind. And so this lower cerebellum, which I talked about before, is the bottom part of our brain. It wraps around the brainstem and is the most ancient part of our brain. It's over like 10.5 million years old. And it holds the entire history of our evolution. And it's like a black box in an airplane. And this is how you access the subconscious mind, where you can access your past, present, and future. This is where in hypnosis or quantum healing techniques, we can access past and future lives. but is also the master controller, overlord, and judge that prevents certain information to come into your conscious mind. So right now, this master controller is listening to this information and seeing if you're ready to receive it. It also holds all the information and knowledge about you and your soul. So it's all stored in the brain, in this lower cerebellum. And this part of us gives orders to the left and right hemispheres of the frontal cortex, which you can think of as our imagination, the front and center of your head. And this personality can only occupy three-dimensional space because it lives in polarity. It kind of lives in lack. So when you're living in lack, you always think there's something outside of you that you need to accomplish in order to be fulfilled, but you never will because you're just operating from that personality, that three-dimensional limited consciousness. And so this is the part of you that your spirit lives in, that when you present it, when you're thinking, when you have thoughts and beliefs, it's sitting there like in a movie theater, seeing the pictures you presented, and then it's saying, okay, this is the reality that he wants or she wants. These are the pictures presenting it. So then I'm going to create a hologram that you experience as your reality. So that's how you create your reality. Whatever you're thinking in your mind and in imagination, your spirit, which is like a tiny ball of energy, is looking at it, like sitting in the movie theater, looking at the pictures that you're presenting it and being like, this is the frequency and the reality that they're focusing on. So then I'm going to create that for them. And so both of the sides of your left and right hemispheres of the brain project this holographic image that you experience as a reality. And the reptilian brain is the one that produces the frequency that you experience. And that reptilian brain does that because it is control of your nervous system, a cardiovascular system, and keeps your heart beating and produces the conscious mind. Because you have to ask yourself, how is your body able to operate without you being aware of it? Your heart is always beating. So there's a part of us, our spirit, that is always keeping this body together and keeping it alive without you even being aware of it. And so this limited part of ourselves that is a part of the lower cerebellum or the overseer is a part of that body mind consciousness, which is a third dimensional reality. And this part of our brain controls the cerebral cortex, which is basically the neural net, and makes you to feel good all the time. And what I mean by that is that, like, whenever you judge someone or you want to feel right, that feels good inside chemically, because it's like a selfish way to keep yourself in a limited reality where you're like, I'm always right. I'm never wrong. I don't need to change. This is who I am. It makes you feel good. That makes you feel good because you don't have to leave your comfort zone. You don't have to change. So this is that part of you, that voice in your head that makes you think those thoughts, because that's the test that we have as a human being, is that's the purpose of this reality. And so this part of your neocortex has bundles of nerves, which are called neurons. And these kind of look like little squids that you see in Matrix, there's a bunch of films that explain this, but basically they look like little squids. They have little arms and tentacles, and they fire electricity within each other to connect, that then turn into a holographic image, which is your reality. And so all of your scenes and memories are stored in this part of your brain because it is the hard drive. And that's why people say we only experience 1/10 of our potential, because the other 90% isn't developed. People don't know this knowledge. They don't know there's access to more. And this is where all the information that you learn stays and is stored in you. That's why you're able to access certain things at any moment, because this is where it's stored. So today you're accessing more of your brain because you're now more aware of your potential. You're aware of aspects of you that you can't see, which is taught in mystery schools. And so this part of your brain, called the reticular formation, this is where information goes through to your body to then experience as a new frequency. And so this is how your reality is transmitted to the body, because your body is basically like there's a VR headset, so you can experience reality, our body's like that VR headset. It's able to feel the sensations of reality by these senses that we have. And basically, there's a reason why when you have an idea, it isn't sent to this reticular formation or created with the body as a new experience. And that is all because of the caudate nucleus. So basically, when you have an idea, it goes to your right and left hemisphere, and it starts as a pure thought. But then all of a sudden, you start judging it and you doubt it. So then it stays here. It doesn't go beyond the caudate nucleus and into the reticular formation to then be created. It's because people focus more on their fears than potential. Because how many times have you had an idea and then we're like too afraid to do it? It's because you judged that pure thought, and then the caudate nucleus was like, all right, they're not ready. So I'm going to keep it from entering the body to create a new reality. And so this is the neurobiology of our neural net and why we have fear, because that energy isn't sent to the body to then raise our frequency to the heart. Our energy is limited. So then this part of our brain is like, let's keep them in fear, because that's the energy that they are focusing on. They're not creating from this idea that your divine director, your spirit, is sending you to be like, this is a new reality, a new frequency. You just have to embody it and believe in yourself. Because, everyone knows scaredy cats. There's so many scaredy cats in the world, and this in spiritual circles or new age circles are known as NPCs, people that are running based off their programming, their fear rather than their potential. So these programmed individuals, which are also represented in movies as artificial intelligence, is because they're controlled by the caudate nucleus. It's in a lock state. They put a lock on it because they're like, I'm in my comfort zone of fear. I don't want anything new. I don't want to experience a new heightened emotion of love and bliss and potential. I'm comfortable in my little comfort zone. And when you meet happy people, it's because they have less intention on this fear, on their claudette, on this nucleus. So, because when you have the absence of fear, there is joy, your natural state of being. And you have to understand joy is not an emotion, but is your natural state of well-being. And if you're bored or uninterested or lack focus and direction, it's because you don't know what to do. You overthink. You're judging every pure thought that comes into your brain. And most of the time, that fear comes from fear of persecution, abandonment, being ostracized from your family, your parents, even lovers. Religion basically programs people to live in fear, be afraid of God and the world, because you think different. You think purely. You think because you believe in yourself. You think in positive ways of evolution. But this part of us is innate in all of us. And when you have fear, you never become an individual. You just stay as an NPC, a programmed avatar that's just here in their comfort zone and never living their potential. And when you exit this claudette, or you spend less time on fear and on joy and bliss, you become fearless leaders and wonderful instructors and parents. And that's what I'm here to help you teach and learn and understand, because even if it's innate in us, it's just like a test. And like a test, you can overcome it. You can pass it in ways that you never thought possible. And so in the part of our brain, the frontal lobe, which is symbolically represented in this drawing here, or in the art of Michelangelo, is basically the screen of your imagination. And that's a part of us that encompasses both hemispheres of the brain and interprets your senses. It basically creates a union of your left and right hemispheres with your focus on an image in your imagination, like two lovers coming together to create a child. It unites the hemispheres into that pure thought and loves that thought into being. So that's where your spirit creates and builds all the models with your focus intent, like I was saying, to become law. That's how you create your reality. Whatever you put up in your mind's eye in thought and belief, your spirit will then create for you. So the more you develop your imagination in creating the images and thoughts or the reality that you want to experience, your spirit will then create that for you. And that's how you will transcend time, that you won't experience past and future because you're so present in the now, that you're focused on your new frequency in reality, in your imagination, rather than judging. And so when you move into the frontal lobe, you're in a hypnotic trance where you're no thinking. This I like to describe when you're like, let's say, playing a sport or you're doing something physical. You have to be so present in order to do that. You're not thinking. That's a hypnotic trance that you need to be in when you're in your imagination and you're not thinking. And so that's where you discover this new dimension of patience, this hypnotic ability to feel one with yourself and be in a timeless space. And that's the part of our brain that's also more psychic. It doesn't think or like judge or analyze anything. It just sends and receive information. You just kind of like flow with your energy. And this creates a trance that moves out of lower emotions and into a state of pure clarity. You know what you're going to do today. You know what you're going to accomplish. You know what your goals are. And when you stop thinking and judging your pure ideas, you're in that state of no emotion. You just are more patient with life. And I call it like a force field, because when you're pure in thought and belief, or basically you don't have any thoughts and beliefs, you're just pure in your state of your oneness within yourself, your belief in self, you have a force field around you that protects you from negative experiences because you're not at that frequency. And you have to go beyond that neocortex, go beyond that claudette nucleus to then come into this frontal lobe of your imagination. Because then that energy will come from the bottom, the lower chakras, at the base of your spine, and go up into the midbrain. And then it'll be tested through that guardian or door in the lower cerebellum. And that part of your brain that tests you, it always looks at your life and knows what you have done. What it knows the real you. It knows you beyond the mask that you present to the world. It is merciful and strict because it knows that if certain things would happen in your life that you can't handle. So that's a saying, whatever has happened in the past will never happen again, because this part of your brain knows that you've already handled it. And so if you're not mature enough spiritually, it will forbid new information to come through you and will test you. I think there's a scene in Lord of the Rings where I think Gandalf is fighting this like demon. And then he says this line's like, "You shall not pass." That's the guardian. That's the symbolic representation of this entity in your brain that's going to test you. And it knows every potential that you're going to select in your life that are not supportive for this to happen. So then that's why it tests you. And it tries to block off your energy from moving forward and keeping your energy stuck in this labyrinth web of the particular formation, which is called mental illness, because you believe in fear rather than yourself. And so it does this because, let's say you know this information, right? But in a few months from now, it knows that you're probably not going to practice it. It probably knows you're not going to do the inner work. So something in your life is going to test you to see if you actually are going to do it. And so it's like a built-in editor, because it knows you won't use this knowledge and practice it. You got to practice it. You can't just sit around and think about it. It only allows you to pass this door of evolution who have really embodied what I'm trying to explain here. And it evaluates everything that's coming into your life and everything that you created, and sees that if you're going to do anything new about it, or are you just going to continue to live in this comfort zone. So this is that part of us that tests us, and the purpose of this reality to have a test of doubt, fear, limitation, and lower animal nature to prove how powerful you are. It's like that scene that I showed you in that video where his hand's in the box. That test is pain. Can you handle the pain and integrate it? That's going to help you grow, because you have to experience pain to grow. That's the only way the mind expands, because that's letting go of old neurons of let's say that's symbolically shown in movies as a villain. You have to let go of those old frequencies so then something new can come in. And that is what you experience as emotional pain. So if you're automatically think of it like this. Every human is automatically inheriting and broadcasting a lack of limitation frequency, just being afraid of everything. And I'm here to help you realize that let's create a reality of easy, because the most unkind act that you can do is to be afraid of life. Because when you say that, you're afraid of yourself. And so in order to get out of lack and fear, you have to do something, you have to do some heavy duty changing. You have to look at your life, know that you are frequency specific to that. You have to take full responsibility for that reality right now. Because in order to become more powerful and present, you have to take responsibility of everything. Because your neurons, your neural net right now has created your day that you're experiencing. And you have to understand, when you look for happiness outside of yourself, let's say a relationship or a new material thing, it's because you are not happy with you. Everything that you look outside of yourself is because it's not existing within you. And fear presents these ideas from sourcing into your body to create. You're limiting yourself from the experience of life. So in order for you to do anything in your life, you have to get beyond the caudate nucleus. You have to let go of fear, because fear is not real in a term of something that you have to experience. It's a frequency. When you're not operating from that frequency, you don't have to experience any reality of fear. So stop negotiating with fear like, oh my God, should I do this today or not? Negotiate with like, what if I do this and it's going to be the happiest experience of my life? So do things that you're afraid of. That's the challenge of this human experience, because that's how you grow. And when you break down this fear, break down from focusing on it and into your happiness, you're going to learn so many things in your life that will blow your mind. You're going to have experiences that feel blissful when you're just sitting around realizing things. And when you think of the frequency of fear, think of it, you're dialing a phone number. You're constantly calling the same number and you're being like, oh, this is fear again. And you're like, great. So just dial a new phone number. Like, keep it simple. And you have to exit this maze of the mind and break down all the negative attitudes. Do you have a negative attitude to politics? Do you have a negative attitude to certain people, to certain relationships, to your job? You have to break that down and ask yourself, why am I focusing on this? Why am I keeping my energy in a negative state, in a negative frequency? And this is the initiation that I experienced to help me go beyond my fear. This is what I was taught from my teacher, who has a mystery school in Romania. And once you realize that you become full responsible of your life, you become aware of all the negative limitations, the frequencies that you operate from and you focus on, those obstructions will just disappear. And then you'll be able to manifest instantly. And this will help you open up your brain to then reach more potentials of your brain, the other 90%. And then that creates a greater reality, more accomplishments, more energy to then create a new reality. And know right now, if you do have a lot of fear in your life, you might not use these teachings and not do the work. There is a very small possibility that might happen to you, but I'm here to help you and help support you on this journey, because you can't be afraid of change. Change is the only way to ascend and evolve. It's just the fear, that frequency, that's not that nice. It's like being called every day by the same phone number, the spam number. Just block it. Don't even focus on it. So this education of your neurobiology will broaden your frequency of possibility. Because when we are born, basically we create this neural net by the age of 20, and we don't add to it. So when you live in this programmed neural net, it starts to break down your DNA and cause illness. That's what we are all experiencing right now, this limited neural net. So most of the time, you don't really see people like in your reality, because they're actually just a replication of experience that's in your head, that's in your neural net. The same emotions that you had when you were 20, instead of a new emotion, a new reality, a new state of being. And since you haven't matured You expect people to give you what you don't have inside of you. Think about that. The job you have, the clients you have, the expectations you have in people, places, things, time, events. You expect that because of this program neural net that was developed in your 20s. You want stuff outside of you that doesn't exist inside of you. And the thoughts that you have right now is frequency specific to whatever your day has become. So look at your day. That's how you become aware. And these are all the opinions about sex, power, your victimization, your identity, and politics. Those are all experiences that you're having because you've thought it. And until you become aware of that, this program neural net in your head will just go over and over and over until you take that full responsibility of your life and change it, change the thoughts. And this is all held in place by Claudette. So you grow old and you look for that same experience that you had by your 20s because you have that same old attitude and emotional state. You feel the same old way. And I want to ask you, so have you ever waken up and you had this feeling where you're like, you don't know who you are? It's like right before you start becoming conscious. That's when your spirit, your ball of light, it's right before it turns on your neural net, your hard drive. But that's who you really are. You aren't thoughts. You aren't this neural net. You're this ball of light that is creating your reality because of what you present to it in your mind. That's like a movie theater. So every feeling, thought, and opinion you have are frequency specific to the reality you experience in people, places, things, times, and events. So if you are experiencing despair, it's because you are frequency specific to it. And so ask yourself, what reality, what part of your day are you affiliating with? Because knowing if you feel bad about the world, it's because you feel bad about yourself. The world is you. It's created by your frequency. And then because of the lack of awareness and ignorance, death will come looking for you because you're a desperate creature rather than creators of your reality. So forgive everything that you've experienced and your energy so they don't live in you, because all enemies live inside of you. They only exist outside of you because you haven't forgiven yourself. So until you start living in this new neighborhood, this new neural net, you can't be who you want to be. And so I hope this workshop will help you to create and get you out of being a lower emotional state. This old neural net can change when you start to believe in yourself. And being evolution for humanity is when you stop being addicted to the same old emotions, own it and create a new day, have a new relationship to yourself, and do it day by day. Then you will find hope because you found it yourself out of this pain, out of the suffering, out of the lower emotional state that you've been addicted to. And once you start saying unkind things to yourself, you'll start to experience it in people. So realize if you want to experience more kinder thoughts, start with yourself, own your life, take responsibility of what you've created, and then you'll have a revelation. That's what we're supposed to all be experiencing right now, this revelation about ourselves. So start to live a day different than you've ever lived before. Get out of your comfort zone, create a new frequency so you can experience new people, things, times, and events. Because the less joy you have, the more you get sick. These negative emotions is what kills us and creates a frequency specific to your thinking. So if you're sick, stop thinking about lower frequency thoughts, because every relationship or every accomplishment you have is shared by the whole. Because did you know you can download any information from the future and any accomplishment at any time when you access this, the more expansive part of your brain? You can access and download anything. All you have to do is go beyond your fear. This is what is called a divine mind, because you are connected to the mind of God. You can download technology, sciences, ideas, because you are operating from a higher frequency of potential. This is where I download the idea of creating a film where after you see it, you can meet your soulmate. Like, how would I have ever known that as a frequency unless I started thinking beyond my limitations? And so I've been downloading that information, this workshop, so I can help people realize that you can download ideas and new experiences that can manifest you health, wealth, and joy. You just have to go live in a different neighborhood, a different part of your brain where you haven't been sick, where you've never been poor, you've never been out of love. You can download this into your brain at any time because it is possible to never be sick. I've never been sick during COVID. I've never had COVID. And it's in your brain just from where you live. Just think about it's a neighborhood. You've been living in a neighborhood of lack. Now move into a neighborhood of abundance. Turn off the old neural net and live in a new place of your brain. Ask yourself where you want to live and fire that up. This is where you connect to your spirit, your divine director, by using your imagination to focus on a new frequency that then will send it to your brain because it doesn't have fear limiting you. And the whole point of having a divine mind, you can never allow an impure thought into your consciousness. This is the work it takes. You can't wake up, have an impure thought, and be like, oh, life is going to be hard today. You can't. If you have a thought, just stop it. Say, actually, my life is going to be great today. My day is going to be great. I'm going to have so many new experiences. I'm going to have so much more energy to create, and I'm going to be so much wealthier than before. Because that's how you rewire a new neural net and live there 24/7 in that heightened emotion like it already happened. Because if you operated from joy, that frequency will attract you similar experiences, similar frequencies of joy. Because like I said before, sound is a frequency, like you're dialing a new telephone number. Just stop dialing the old one, because that's how you change your frequency and operate from a new neural net. And say who you are every day. Say, I am wealthy. I'm never sick. I'm always healthy. I'm a divine mind. I'm a divine director because I create my reality, and what I say matters. So when you move to that new place and live in that new frequency, you create those new thoughts and beliefs. And the moment you know that your focused thought creates your reality and affects your life is when you really wake up. Until then, you are just asleep. And the moment you discipline your thinking and the images you entertain is when you become free. The freedom that we all want to experience from any control is discipline. Discipline your own mind, because then your spirit will be like, got it. You have a new reality you want to experience. You're done sending me dull, painful imagery. And so I'm going to liberate you with more like unlimited potentials of reality because you're showing me that. Because it's only equal to what you present to it and you create in your mind, because that's what you think you're worthy to experience. For me personally, I thought I wasn't worthy of certain relationships. And then I realized that I was operating from a neural net due to my subconscious programming of being adopted, that I probably might not have unconditional love in my life. And so I had recently realized that that was just an old neural net, an old emotional state that I was living in. And so that operated in certain relationships that I had. But now that I'm aware of it, I'm living in a new neighborhood where my next relationships will be unconditional love, support, excitement, and bliss, because now I'm not living in an old neural net that's based on my past, on this lower emotional state. And that's how you love yourself out of this lower inherited mind, or this animal soul, which is the ego. And so stop looking outside of you for change. This is the work that you have to do. You have to create it from within. And once you own the role that you played, know that it's now time to speak with compassion and strength, because you can become that and create a new reality. So to sum up everything, to ascend here is to realize what I've taught you today, this information, where if you operate from the current neural net of your brain, you're operating from the 3 lower chakras called the 3rd dimension. And in order to operate from the 4th, you have to start using your imagination. That's the tesseract that's in Interstellar. You can operate from your imagination where there's no past or future. It's just your present and creating a reality that you then start operating from that is frequency specific to a new emotional state of joy or bliss. And until you do that, you're going to be in social consciousness and subconsciousness, which is fear. And you won't get into that bridge consciousness where it transcends the Claudette nucleus and into the frontal lobe, which is where you create reality from, because that's where your spirit is being presented images to then entertain, to then create a hologram that you experience. So just stop with any excuse that you have, any unhappiness that you experience, the lack and limitations, because these are the demons that exist inside all of us. Don't ever allow them to enter your consciousness. Don't ever allow those dull, mundane thoughts. And because you know that you are the lawgiver of life, both from your focus and concentration. So now I want to show the last film to summarize everything that you've learned today in Dune. And I highly recommend watching that film to understand this even deeper. We take a look at the villains or the enemy in that film, as that's the old neural net. And the main character, Paul, is trying to create a new neural net by understanding frequency and the power of belief. So here we go.
About a girl falling in battle. Felt like a vision.
Dreams make good stories, but everything important happens when we're awake.
The future of House Atreides.
You have to be ready.
There is no call we do not answer. There is no faith that we betray.
You're not human, they're armies.
If I'm not that, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son. The voice from the outer world will be paradise. What does it mean? That I could be the one?
You heard. We've been carefully crossing bloodlines to bring forth
The one?
a mind powerful enough to bridge space and time, past and future, who can help us into a better future. His fingers. It is
Yes, sir.
bearing the way.
The bloodline ends forever. Kill them all. This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one. Only together can we stand a chance.
Let's fight like demons.
Yes, sir.
My father came not for spice, not for the riches, but for the strength of your people. My road leads into the desert. I could see it.
Safe for you here.
I'm myself here. Here's the mighty.
Only the beginning.
Oh, I love that movie. Love that trailer. So again, to lastly summarize everything, So thank you guys so much for joining today's workshop and session. Just remember, fear doesn't have control of your life unless you focus on it. It is just a frequency. And when you understand and face it, you can discover your true power, just like Paul in the Dune movie. Just choose joy, choose the things that make you happy, and choose to be born again into your best self. Let go of the old neural net and live into a new one. And if you need another example in a most grounded way, watch the show Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay. It is an amazing and hilarious show that grounds this information into reality. It shows how to reprogram an old neural net of lower emotions by having a force of passion. You have to care about your success. You have to care about your life that Gordon Ramsay represents, and it helps people confront the old neural net and these lower negative emotions into a more positive one. And he transforms their life in a week. So just watch that show if you need another example. And if you want to go even deeper, join my membership, which includes guided meditations, these bi-weekly sessions to help you transform your neural net and evolve into a new neural net, a perfect health, wealth, and love. And another reminder is to realize that everything that's going outside of reality, outside of us, think of that as the old neural net dying. Do not focus on it. Focus on yourself. Go into the desert where you don't need anything. You don't need any practice. You don't need any offering. All you need is this awareness and working on yourself, like the desert. And the fear that is symbolized in Dune is like the worms. All you have to do is learn to ride that fear and integrate it, so then you can access a divine mind that is aware of the inner thoughts and inner words that you say to yourself as sound are frequencies. So thank you again. If you guys have any questions, I can take some. But I also feel like this is something you need to integrate. You need to experience and work on yourself, either by journaling, looking at your life and looking at your current reality to then better understand the changes that you need to make. Let me try to get out of here. So yeah, that's looks like you guys are good to go. Great. I felt when I learned this, I didn't have any questions either. It's very plain simple to me. And I think it'll integrate more once you just start being reflective about your reality, teaching you about you. And that's all you need to do. So thank you guys again. Thanks, Penny. I love the feedback. Hope to talk to you soon. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Empower yourself. Know that your reality can change the instant that you change. And then you'll be free from all this control and all these negative emotional states that humanity is trying to test us with. And know that it's just a hologram. It's a game. And you get to choose that reality, that hologram and game you want to experience. So thank you guys again so much. Check out 58magazine.com. Join the 58 membership for weekly guided meditations and these bi-weekly sessions to keep your frequency elevated and not distracted from these tests of lower frequencies, so you can create the reality of your dreams. So guys have a great, wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.